Home is where your heart is. But I don't really know where that is.
Home changes. Home gets new paint and new people.
Home stops calling to see how you're doing without it.
Home stops. Then home stops being home.
And home starts being whatever you need it to be.
Like a noun. Like a person who thought she lost everything, but smiles when she realizes all the stuff she can still call her own.
Like a place she can go to no matter where her feet are standing.
Like a thing she didn't think she would have to lose again to find. Thank you.
It was sad. I think it was cleansing for her. She did a big stress sigh at the end, so I'm gonna assume she was cleansed. I think poetry is definitely cathartic. It's like getting all of your pent-up emotions out at once in an artistic way that you don't need anything but your body to do.
My writing is really personal, some might say too personal. I hide a lot of it from my close family members. It gets deep, it gets real, it gets to my most vulnerable feelings because that's the stuff that I need to write about.
I'm Anthony Marasini. I'm the curator-manager of Connections Gallery here in Easton, Pennsylvania.
Hi, my name is Erin Anastasia, and I'm a spoken word poet from New Jersey.
I'm Erin O'Malley. I'm the co-director of the Exolano Project. The Exolano Project is Penn's premier spoken word poetry group. We do shows each semester, or once a semester, and then we also lead workshops and do other performances in the community.
So my name is Ayel Famawi, and I am one of the members of the Exolano Project.
My name is Carly Rosania. I'm 19 and I write poetry.
I don't perform, I don't publish, I don't put my work out there, so I don't consider myself necessarily a poet. I'm kind of just writing for me, I guess, at this point, and I don't know if I'll ever be not just writing for me.
I got into the spoken word scene through the digital age. I started falling in love with spoken word through button poetry, through the internet.
Like the recordings that, for example, like Button Poetry does have been really helpful to introducing people to poetry, especially spoken word poetry. There are a bunch of really great online literary magazines that publish amazing work, and I think the fact that those poems are free and accessible online have been really helpful to spreading really great poetry to people who maybe wouldn't have had access to it otherwise.
I just think it's young folks, again, coming out with their own sense of self and becoming part of that scene that's broadening the scene, making it even better. Those forms of social media perpetuate that in the younger audience.
21.
For sure, but that younger audience bringing their voice to the table, that just makes, like I said, the table alive.
I do not cry. 4 months later, the nurses lose his pulse, and I wonder whose life flashed before his eyes.
I think I started a lot with online poetry because it was easily accessible, and there's a lot of it for like any topic. But after a while, I kind of moved more towards like going to poetry events and open mics and stuff like that. Having a sister who performs kind of puts you in the scene a lot more without having to do any of the work.
You're not alone. I know it's a cliche. What words of comfort haven't you heard I could say?
I've been writing for like 10 years now, but the extent of the people that I've shown my work to is probably around 2 or 3.
There's a vibe, there's a mood, there's sometimes themes, there's inside jokes that form in the crowd throughout the night. There's just this...
Please pick a number between 1 and 27.
Can I have
8? 8, okay. Drum roll, please. describe your last sexual encounter?
You may skip that one.
In like a word or like?
However you'd like to explain it.
Unsatisfactory.
Intensity, electricity, that's the word I'm looking for, that I think can be found at slams that can't be found anywhere else.
I also don't think that a lot of my work is good enough to really be performing in front of people. I've considered workshopping it. There are some places where you can go that you can perform your poetry in front of people and they'll give you constructive criticism. But I don't know what I would be learning from it. I don't know what we're doing.
We're just reading the ones that you wrote.
Terrible idea, because that involves reading poetry.
Oh, what an unfortunate place I have taken you to tonight.
Can't believe this turn of events.
I got to say goodbye. Ryan ignored an invite to play video games. Mom got the word weird, full stop, no context. Macy got an argument neither of you won 4 years ago, but I got a goodbye. And I know that you're gone, and I know that we weren't close, but in my head we are close. Closer than our sometimes estranged, always strange relationship that I force myself to remember factually, of course, but we were close. Somewhere, sometime, we are hiking in the Muskie, we are searching the car floor for a pill you dropped, and we are saying goodbye. I've never read for anybody but her, so my cadence sucks.
You did great.
But that's all I have.
I think every poetry community is really distinct, but they carry some similar ideas of affirmation of one another and of wanting to hear poems that are complex and personal and really get at the heart of issues, whether they're political or otherwise. I think that's what distinguishes poetry from outside art communities, because in poetry you're really compelled to and encouraged to write in your own voice. Anyone can do it. If you have something important to say and you want to say it, you can do it. I do a writing workshop with incarcerated women. Then they have some with really young kids, high school age students. All it takes is openness. All it takes is saying, like, I want to improve the way I'm saying this message. It's really accessible in the sense that anyone who watches a poem feels something. And usually they like the feeling like of being, I don't know, like excited by a piece of work or a piece of writing. And so they want to do that. And all you need to do to be able to do that is to write.
I really like that ending.
Thank you.
Spoken word and poetry, like, just to keep you so raw, and you're forced to deal with what that person's saying right then and there. And so, like I said, I didn't want to say this person's name. It's just not fair to them. They're not here to. I'm sure they don't care, but I don't want to do that to them. But they were telling about this really horrible experience they had as a young person. You know, stuff that people, it just shouldn't happen. And it was just really touching. You couldn't escape what she was saying. So it just like burrows in your head, and you're stuck there with her.
It gets easier with time, but it never goes away.
Yeah, I'm figuring that out really quick.
It gets easier. It gets more. You start to appreciate those moments instead of it creating a storm inside of you.
Oh, that was good. That was a good, like, metaphor or whatever maybe.
Gosh,
That was good. It's like when it's not raining, I still create a
storm. It's like you try to pull it up because it's remembering.
Yeah.
It was perfect where you started explaining that, where it's like, not, okay, I did get to say goodbye, but I knew I was going to be texting you, and I knew, and the way you went through all that, whereas in another poem or another context or something, it might have been like too much, like info, but it was perfect, and it was necessary to really bring that point in.
I think it was necessary because of how, like, how we take those things for granted. It was that little.
It slowed everything down.
It was that little thing that she took for granted.
I definitely encourage anyone, if you haven't been to a poetry slam or an open mic that has poetry, just go, just check it out for yourself. There's really all types of poets, all types of people, all types of stories. It's not just one thing. It's not a form that people have to adhere to. it really is just a mix of people that want to tell stories coming together.
I think we've even had situations where people had a lot to say and had a lot to write, but never wanted to perform it.
You know, when you read your poetry, it's your own voice in your own head. I think the sense of self gets in the way. If you know, you'll see it through yourself for sure.
I think it takes courage for sure. It's not an easy thing to, like I said, share your diary on stage with a room full of people. It's intimidating, and you have to practice it a lot before you feel comfortable doing it. And that's, to me, makes it worth the risk.
I'm gonna say, you go over there, I'm gonna figure out what I'm reading. I was just saying that with the lights behind me and really in there. Oh. And my talk nerdy to me, sure.
Yeah, it's ads, and then you get mixers, and then it has a screen on the top. Thank you. I have it in there.
I've never performed before, so I'm not good at it. And I'm gonna do a poem. It's called Season of the Sun. In the end, it's nonsensical. We worship the season of the sun despite all the darkness it brings, the gentle facade that all is bright and the sun doesn't set until everyone is home. Pay no attention to the hangover kids, paying summer job paychecks to pay for six-packs that won't last the night, to the heartbreakers mending their brokenness at the expense of another, to the partiers regretting every night in the morning and every morning in the night, to the beach bums pushing freckle-stained faces together on sandy beaches underneath overturned canoes just as the sun sets. Pay them no mind. Summer is the time to have fun, and we've marked all our calendars with the anniversaries of losing every friend, wondering how much fun they were having when the airbags deployed. It was so hot that night that I can still taste the sweat from my lip, and the 100-degree funerals and the after parties. Pour one out for all the friends that we've lost, but don't lose sight of tonight. Raise your red plastic cups to every starlit sky, to finding the path home is lit with fireflies, and to the bonfires and boozing and bliss, to summer. That's all I got.
Nice. Yeah, that's great.
Being a poet itself has really shaped how I view the language that I use, and has made me think about the agency that I have with the words that I do use and the words that I don't use as well. Poetry itself is a kind of language.
I think when you do specifically poetry in a space here or anywhere, it's just it's a much more, there's a more intimate concept of what you're doing. Like you're talking to people.
It's a tool of empathy. It's a way to connect with one another. And so there's no way that empathy and connection can ever be frivolous.
There's a lot more that goes into it that a lot of people don't know.
I guess overall I learned that I probably am a poet, and I'm gonna need to perform more, even though it is scary and intimidating, and I'm probably gonna still shake and not feel as assured in my work. That's okay, because I think performing is gonna make me feel overall better about what I write and make me feel overall better about presenting myself as a person, not just as an artist.